Yamahaskanu. My name is Angela Ferguson. I'm from the Onondaga Nation. I am a member of the Eel Clan, and my job that I do for my people on my nation is I run the Onondaga Nation farm, where we practice all aspects of food sovereignty, which is, to me, growing our own foods on our own land, using our traditional heirloom seeds, and using our knowledge that was handed down to us from our ancestors, and using that to feed ourselves. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and something that I'm very thankful and honored that I'm allowed to work with these plants and these foods, and I take a lot of joy out of doing that and sharing what I know with others. I started the project maybe about five years ago. It was an extension of a project that had been started by Chief Virgil Thomas when he was running our nation farm, and I now took that project from what it used to be of just growing food for elders to growing food for the whole community. One of the main focuses that I enjoy taking part in is that we're also putting away for the future, putting food away for our future generations, the current generations, and also teaching people how to do seed saving. So most of the things that we participate in are not just traditional agriculture, but also hunting, fishing, foraging, medicine gathering, picking berries, wild fruits, mushrooms, all those kind of things. So we're trying to get people back to eating that traditional diet and encouraging them to get back to wellness, really. So I guess that's about it for that.
My name is Pete Jemison. I am the Historic Site Manager for Onondaga State Historic Site in Victor. I am also the person who moved the Iroquois White Corn Project from the Cattaraugus territory to Onondaga. And we did that, now probably back about 7-8 years ago. And we are mostly processing corn. We're not growing corn this year. We are mainly processing corn that we have hired other farmers to grow for us. And we'll simply trade our three products, the roasted white corn flour, the white corn flour, and the whole hulled corn. And that's pretty much what we're doing. What I am pleased about is that we had an impact on the Seneca Nation. They've taken the project that they started with us and really blown it out to where they have a farm now called Gakwio Farm, where they're raising many different varieties of vegetables, of course white corn, but also berries. They also now are taking on farming buffalo, and they also work with a nearby orchard where they get apples from, so they can do canning and making cider and doing a variety of different things. Again, just trying to be a part of the idea of providing your own food and deciding what it is that you want to eat healthy. And I think this is a very positive move, and I'm super impressed with the work that they're doing at the Onondaga Nation to get young people involved and to do as much growing as you've been doing for the last, like you say, 5 years. It's great.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work. This year, we normally have a larger amount of people, and due to the current situation with the pandemic, we only had 4 of us.
Wow.
So 4 of us women planted 12 acres by hand.
Wow.
Yeah, we did over we did over 5,000 squash plants, 32 varieties of indigenous beans. We did 7 varieties of corn, and it's just been a lot, but you know what? We just kept moving forward, and everything came out. So we must have done something right. I think, putting our heads together and working together as a unit and just staying positive. The plants rewarded us,
Yeah. Now, are you starting the squash from seedlings, or are you starting it from the actual seed?
The seed, we put the seed right in the
Always
ground.
the seed.
Mhm.
Same with the beans, of
Yes.
course, and the
Mhm.
corn.
Yeah, we don't do
Yeah.
any starter plants, we just,
Okay,
put the seeds right in the ground.
yeah. And so throughout the growing season, now you're doing that all again by hand with hoeing, or how do you?
Yes, we did that with, you know, making hills and mounds, using
Yeah.
our hand tools, and, same thing with making the rows for, planting the corn and the beans.
Mm-hmm.
We also did lots of potatoes, we did a superfoods garden, and, that's just highly nutritious foods, highly
Mhm.
nutrient dense foods that you don't have to eat a lot of. And usually everything doesn't come out, but this year it did.
Really? So you
Yeah,
had
it was,
There's plenty of rain. Obviously.
yeah, I think the
That's
warm,
good
yeah,
warm days.
yeah, a lot of sun, and,
Yeah.
it was just really good. We've had a lot of help, you know, with, people that wanted to volunteer, and especially now at harvest time, it's really brought the community together. It's been really, really great, actually, and a lot of the youth and the young kids,
Mm-hmm.
on Indigenous Peoples' Day, they came up. It was amazing.
Nice. So how many hours a day do you think you were in the field? Just
I was in there
Yes, sir.
every single day from morning till night, pretty much.
Really? Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, if I couldn't be there, I always, you know, my work crew is always there as well. There's just, there's people at the farm in 24 hours a day just to, you know, stay in with everything that we have. But,
yeah. Protecting
you know, sun to sundown is kind of like what we do in the summertime.
it. Mm-hmm.
And then now that it's harvesting, we can go home a little earlier, but.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to here at Onondaga when they talk about the French coming and destroying over 1 million bushels of corn. You know, this is a combination of what was stored and what was growing.
Mhm.
You know, of course they had a huge workforce, and I'm just wondering, you know, I've always tried to visualize how much time would it take for women to do this. Mary Jemison, who is one of the people that gives us a description, talks about the women beginning at one side of the field, each taking a row and working all the way to the end of that row, you know, and they had one woman who was in charge, and they just kept moving, and that's how they got all the food together that
Right.
they needed, you know. And that sounds like what you're doing.
It kind of is,
with
as
a
you're
reduced
describing
workforce,
it.
with a reduced workforce, but
Right,
still.
right, and we didn't think we'd be able to manage it all, but like the way that you're describing, sometimes we find ourselves, you're doing ancestral activities and you're not knowing why you're doing it that particular way, but it's
Mhm.
almost like a blood memory, a DNA memory, and that's actually how we do it. Each person takes a row and you just keep pecking at it until you get to the end, and then you
Yeah.
start all over again. And
Yeah,
then when a volunteer shows up, then they get to do one row. That's one less you have to do, and you know.
Yeah.
So the more people makes the work lighter, but it's enjoyable because you're
yeah,
having a relationship with the earth and the plants and yourself and
Yeah.
your thoughts, and you know, while you're in that garden. So
right.
it's like a sacred time, and I think it was something that kept us grounded throughout all this hectic, chaotic world we are in today.
Yeah, and so you're trying to maintain a good mind, and you know, with your food and for your own soul, and but as you say, we've been through a very unusual time where, you know, a lot of uncertainty and a lot of, I mean, some people a lot of fear.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of feeling like they can't do things, but like they would like to do, like go to a lacrosse game or
Mm-hmm.
play in a lacrosse game or whatever it might have been, you know, and
Yeah.
that can be frustrating for people and turn into kind of like a, you know, bad thing really
Yeah.
if they get too frustrated by it all. Well, here when we were planting, we used a tractor, but we only had a 2-row corn planter,
Mm-hmm.
and we walked behind it, dropping in the seed
Oh.
and then put it in that way, right?
Nice.
And that machine creates a furrow and then covers it over with the wheels as it goes by over the top of it. But it was a good feeling, you know, and we would work with 3 or 4 of us usually, and taking turns on walking behind the tractor, and we were only doing about 2.5 acres. We weren't really doing a whole huge amount. But the field was getting less and less productive. So this year I tried to put in red clover just to get nitrogen back in there.
Yeah.
And I may do that again another year. I'm not sure because I didn't think we got enough cover for what we got. But we got a good clover, but we didn't get the rain we needed to get that stuff
Yeah.
started, I guess.
Well, one of the other things that you can consider is crop rotation with the Three Sisters.
Right.
So that's what we do. We only grow corn 3 times in one spot, and on that next year we put beans in there.
Right.
And then following that bean field will be squash the next year, and then it'll rest. So
Yes.
that each field is rotating around to where it's
Yeah.
gotta go.
Not a monoculture all the time in one
Mhm.
spot, yeah.
And then, of course, always giving that 1 year of rest, you know, and then starting back over again. By the time it's done resting, it's time for the corn to go back in that field again. And so you get big, giant cobs. You know, we had a couple of really, really big ones.
Wow.
So, you know, that's when it gets that rest and it gets that replenishment, you know. That's something I'd like to maybe focus this year on, is soil and teaching kids how the earth is alive.
Yeah.
Teaching the youth that, you know, the dirt in your hands it's a whole village itself of people and molecules, and there's like all these living things in there. So I want them to learn about that. I think it'd be interesting for them.
Yeah. So when you say rest, you really mean you don't plant anything?
No, we don't plant
1 year
anything. We don't till it. We just
Don't
let
do
it
anything.
grow back naturally.
Yeah.
And then when we gotta use it again for the next time around, we
Yeah.
do the old slash and burn method, and we set that on fire and we stomp it out at the edges.
Okay.
So the wood ash will help prevent those weeds
From growing
back, yeah, so
Okay.
much, because it
Well,
gets.
that's good too, I like that
Yeah.
idea. One of the things that Jane Mount Pleasant always maintained was that because of our agricultural method, where we didn't plow, we didn't go deep in the soil, we did, you know, just deep enough for the seed, that we didn't lose a lot of soil due to wind erosion, and therefore the field continued to be productive. Even though we might use that field a
Right.
lot, it still was productive, far more productive than Europeans were getting with their methodology, which was plowing deep,
Yeah.
using domestic animals, and then creating a lot of erosion. And the more that farming has gotten more and more mechanized, the more they're getting compaction, and they're also getting a lot of erosion from wind and even rain, because it just gets like it's,
Yeah.
you know, packed down.
Yes,
And
that's
dust.
true. And
Yeah.
I find that they're actually, I've been being asked by several other farmers, you know, that are not indigenous or that are involved in big agriculture, how can you guys produce so much food on such a small amount of space? You know, and I said, because you have to work with that soil and make sure that soil's, you know, living and breathing and fed. You have to feed the soil too. And I said, the way you guys do it, it doesn't, it's not sustainable. And so you're in a repetitive cycle of something that has to keep happening over and over again.
Yeah.
And foods adapt, you know, even corn, it's like a person. If you move them from one village to the other, it takes a while for that person to adjust to what's going on in that community. It's the same thing with corn. If you move it from one location to another, it's like, whoa, what is this climate, you know? And the soil is the same way when you're trying to grow foods in it and enter this new visitor into its realm. And so the way that I told them is that a lot of that fertilizer and things that you guys are putting in there that are not really natural to that
Yeah.
is actually doing more harm than good.
Right.
You know, so
Right.